good for you till much later.
Well, also in Murder in Bloomsbury, the General Annuity Society for Tradespersons, formerly Better Off, gave me a chuckle. I just wondered, was this a real charity or were there others that had such comical names?
Honestly, I went back through my notes and I don't remember exactly. So I would never come up with that by myself. I'm pretty sure I did a twist on something that existed. Because that tradesperson's formerly Better Off. I'm pretty sure I kind of must have adopted that from somewhere. Yeah, it's a long name.
It is.
It cracked me up, and I think that's why I wanted to use it, because it lends an authenticity to the piece.
Oh, definitely. I couldn't help but chuckle every time I read it.
Who inspired you to start writing?
I mean, I don't know if anyone inspired me. I always knew I could write okay. I mean, that's what my strength was. It certainly was not math. And I knew I could write well, but I didn't know if I could tell a story. It's funny because when my husband and I first got married, we'd be watching show. You know, in the beginning, he used to watch soap operas with me. That's love for you, right?
Yes.
Till about a year, and he's like, boy, they just sort of repeat the same story. And I often would always say, oh, what they should have done is this, or oh, they shouldn't have done that. And he would always say, why don't you write your own story? You're always changing the stories that we watch. And I never took that seriously. Honestly, I got my start writing romance. And I had never really read a romance. I was in the library with my kids when they were young. And that was back when you had to wait in line to check out.
Oh, yes.
And there was a long checkout line, and there was a romance on the end cap. So I just picked it up and read it till I got to the front of the line. And when I got to the front of the line, I thought, well, you know, I threw it in with the rest of the books. And I read it, and I really enjoyed it. I found it entertaining and transporting. And I really enjoyed the Regency details. I really enjoyed being immersed in another world. I think that summer I must have read 60 romances. And I thought, because they do have something of a formula, I thought, you know, I'm going to try. And that's how I started writing. Once I finished that first manuscript, I had no idea what to do with it. So I send out an email to friends, and I'm like, does anybody know anybody in publishing? And a friend of mine who lives in New York, my neighbor's niece works for Harlequin, and she says, you should join. There's a national organization for romance writers, and they have chapter contests, and that's what you should do. So that's what I did. And these chapter contests are often judged by agents and editors.
Oh.
Ultimately, that is how I found my agent.
That's amazing. So many people have to go through that whole rejection thing.
Oh, I did. Oh, don't get me wrong. A lot of rejection. I was rejected a lot. And actually, my current agent rejected me the first time.
Oh, really?
She wrote me this it wasn't the usual rejection. Good luck. I enjoyed it, but it's not right for me. She wrote me a personal email saying, you really enjoyed the first 100 pages, and I discussed it with my agent. We just don't think it's a good fit at this time for us, but good luck. Well, after that, Kensington Publishing had a contest called Writing with the Stars, and my manuscript was chosen in the top 10 to be in this contest. And I made it to the top 3. And apparently my agent's partner said to her, you know that author you rejected? She's like in the top 3 in this contest. So my agent emailed, she wasn't my agent at the time. She emailed me and it went to junk mail.
Oh.
You know, congratulations. Why don't you send me that again? And luckily I found it. I look at junk mail once a week or so. So it was lucky I found it. I sent her the manuscript again and she offered representation.
Great.
Yeah. I always say in publishing, nothing has happened to me in that stereotypical way. Like when you get the call and, you know, everything sort of happens kind of sideways for me. But that's okay too, as long as it happens.
I think a lot of times it truly is all about the timing. It's not meant to be till it's meant to be.
That's so true. And in this business, you really have to just keep your head on straight and be happy for other people's success, because yesterday's aspiring writer is tomorrow's bestseller and you're still there. Mm-hmm. You were mentoring that person not me, I'm just saying. And then they're New York Times bestseller. So it's a crazy kind of business, and you just have to just focus on your own work and try hard not to compare yourself to where others are on their journey.
So you write about strong women in your books. Are you anywhere in there as one of the characters?
What do you think? I think there's maybe a little piece of me in every character, maybe, except the killer, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But maybe I think the killer thoughts, I just don't go through with it. I think my BFF, my longtime friend who was the first person who read anything, now reads everything and brainstorms with me and gives me feedback. She thinks that, yes, there's one character in one of the romances that she basically thinks is me. I wish that was me. She's fabulous because, she's the heroine. But yeah, there's a little piece of me in everything, I think. There's a little piece of me and some bits of social justice sprinkled sort of in these books, especially surrounding women's rights. So, all these things are a little bit me. And everything you write is in some way based on your experiences, I think.
And then lastly, you mentioned your book, Murder at the Opera, that it's finished or...
It's out to my critique partners.
Tell them to hurry up.
Sign you up?
Yes.
It's not really a condition yet to be seen by the people or by the editor. It's due to my editor January 4th. It doesn't have a for sure publication date, but we're looking at December 2019 right now.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
We have a while to go.
Sorry. Book 4 should that happen. I'd like for it to happen, but we'll see if we can make a deal. We'll focus on Thea and Charlton.
Oh, okay.
How's that for a teaser?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yep, sign me up for that also. Do you have any events coming up? Book signings or?
I will be at Malice Domestic, which
we
will too.
Oh, really? Oh, then I would love to meet you.
Yes, we definitely will have to have a sit down.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes, I'll be at Malice Domestic. That's all I currently have on my schedule. My youngest is a senior in high school.
Oh.
I'm sort of trying to focus on this last year of his childhood and, just really be present. I don't want to be too busy this year.
Right. I can understand that.
College applications and all those things, trying to focus where I can.
Well, we certainly thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk with us and to give your advice to up-and-coming authors. And we wish you all the luck with your book, and we can't wait for the next one to come out.
You really left us hanging on that last one.
But only kind of, sort of, right?
Yeah. It was how I wanted it to end.
Yeah, we knew it was
more.
coming.
We want more.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that that situation resolves itself a little bit. And we learn a little more about Thea and her husband.
Uh-huh.
Murder at the Opera involves Atlas's former brother-in-law, his very hated brother-in-law.
The one that he says killed his sister.
Well, or we'll say. Right. And he is a suspect. The murder of his mistress. And I can tell you that story was also inspired by a real life crime.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Now, does Atlas get closer to his nephew?
The nephew, yes. This was really a book where I wanted to satisfy those kinds of relationships I wanted to resolve them in a satisfying way. They're not fully resolved, but in a way, I don't want to leave everybody dangling. And yes, the nephew, we do see more of the nephew. He is also somewhat involved in this investigation.
Oh, can't wait.
Yes.
I hope you guys like it.
Oh, I know.
Tell your editor you want to put a speed track on that.
Well, they did release Murder in Bloomsbury about 6 months earlier than they had originally intended. So
okay.
That's great.
I need a certain amount of time to get these.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, Diana, we'll make you a deal. If you send us an advanced reader copy, we'll have you back on.
Sounds like a plan. We'll do it.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you at Malice Domestic, and we wish you all the best, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Happy holidays and
thank
happy
you. I hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. You guys are in the state. You all are in the state.
Yeah, we're not that far from you, actually.
So
We're right outside of Baltimore.
Oh, okay. So you're close. Oh, that's good.
we
So
are.
anyway, well, happy belated Thanksgiving and happy holidays to you. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And looking forward to meeting you in person at Malice Domestic. And looking forward to sending you an advanced copy of Murder.
Awesome.
Great. Oh, we
Thank
can't wait.
you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was a good interview.
It certainly was. Diana was very gracious and very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yes. And her books, we all loved those books. She has 2 books in her series, Murder in Mayfair and Murder in Bloomsbury. They are both excellent books.
Can't wait for that third one. It sounds very interesting.
I won't tell you what it is, and I alluded to it during the interview, but she gives you a little snippet at the end that just keeps you coming back from where Mom made the comment that she thought the series was over.
I thought it was ending.
I was like, no way! She would never leave it on a note like that.
Too much of a cliffhanger.
Both books, they follow the same set of characters, and Atlas Catesby is the protagonist and his merry band of friends.
Interesting relatives.
Yes, he has some.
I made a comment to Mom the other day that I think really rings true in this book. This isn't a romance book, but there's some
a
romantic quality.
And without being graphic or descriptive, Atlas to me is one of the sexiest characters, and I'm super I am Team Atlas all the way.
He reminded me of Ezra.
Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, you
check out the episode with Jane Jensen. Our J book, and the book was Kingdom Come.
He was also sexy.
Oh,
yes,
definitely.
And that was a sexy character, too. I agree. Atlas, get your
blood pumping.
It just goes to show you that you don't have to give all the bells and whistles, all the details when it comes to... He just alluded it. And she did a great job of putting that out there that...
Well, her character development was really good.
Well, you know what I liked? I liked the way she described things. Now, she didn't describe Atlas as a man. She didn't say he was tall and handsome and this and that. But the clothing that she wore, you could say they wore beaded satin, and you could feel the rustle as they walked. And I thought she did an excellent job of describing the surroundings, the style.
I kind of approached it from a different angle. I thought the situations she put him in were what made him the person he was. His demeanor,
how he reacted to
he was a gentleman.
He was a gentleman. He was very honorable.
He treated people with respect, no matter.
Still a little bit of a bad boy.
Right. But if he was talking to a servant, he gave them the same respect that he gave his friends. He was not a person who judged your situation at life. And in that era,
exactly,
your situation in life was everything. If you were a pauper, you were going to stay a pauper no matter if you became rich.
Yeah, I think that Diana, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in an other interview I might have heard with her, where she says because of his travels, he got to see more of the world.
Yes.
And he wasn't stuck in the Regency mindset of the class above everything.
Yes. But he was also aware of the English strict rules of etiquette when it came to class, because he knew that he was of a certain level and others that he knows are higher level, and they two could never come together. It all works out in the story.
Well, the one thing that really came across to me is she touched on it during the interview was the amount of research. She had to do a lot of research, and not just on the time period, like we talked about with the poisons. I can understand why a writer would go down those rabbit holes, because I can see myself doing something like that. What does arsenic do? Let me see what else it can do.
Right.
Well, you can check out everything that DM Quincy has to say about her books on her website, www.dmquincy.com.
And that's Quincy, Quincy, with no E. Check her out. That brings us to the end of our Q episode. Our Aura book will feature Brad Ricka, who wrote the book Mrs. Sherlock Holmes, The True Story of New York City's Greatest Female Detective. Stay tuned for that. We hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving holiday and are looking forward to the holiday season of this year. And we hope you'll visit with us next week.
For our next bookends, we're up to bookend 17.
Right, that's next week. And we hope you'll join us then, and we look forward to visiting with you.
As